Today, Nigeria becomes the third country in Africa after Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to roll out the COVID-19 vaccine from the COVAX facility, with frontline health workers being the first beneficiaries. Some health workers from the COVID-19 treatment centers at the National Hospital and University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, Gwagwalada, became the first to receive the jab of the AstraZeneca vaccine in Nigeria. Both the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and the Speaker, House of Representatives, appealed to health officials to ensure that every eligible citizen is vaccinated.
It is the official rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine in Abuja, 72 hours after Nigeria took delivery of 3.924 million doses from the COVAX facility. Ministers of Health, FCT, leadership of the National Assembly, members of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, traditional rulers and other senior government officials are here at the National Hospital. Few hours after the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control certified the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines for use in the country, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 is prioritizing frontline health workers in the initial rollout plan.
They have fought hard to save us. They laid down their lives for us, and in the ICUs and treatment centers, they became our last line of defense. On behalf of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the government and the people of Nigeria, I salute our heroic frontline medical personnel for their professionalism and commitment to saving lives.
It has been a harrowing past 1 year to helplessly follow the gradual increase of COVID-19 casualties in our country, especially among health workers in our midst, which was also depleting the human resource for health and making it all the more harder to tend to other people in need of health care.
The Speaker of the House of Representatives underlines the need for a transparent process.
We must not play politics with vaccine. We must not play politics with the health of our neighbor. We must be on the same page, whilst we also correct and do what you need to do in terms of your role in checking the government.
Secretary to the Government of the Federation then officially announced the rollout, and Dr. CYPRIAN NGONG becomes the first recipient to be vaccinated against COVID-19 in Nigeria.
I now have the single honor and privilege to flag off the vaccination of eligible Nigerians against COVID-19.
Being the first means I also want at least 70% of the nation to get vaccinated as well.
Do you feel any reactions right now?
No reaction. I will just say a slight pinch at the jab where I got the jab, and that's it.
Other frontline health workers from the COVID-19 treatment centers in Gwagwalada and the National Hospital also received their first jabs.
I feel great to be among the first, number second, to actually have the second person to actually have this vaccine. So I feel great, I feel elated, and it's a dream come true. We've been waiting for this vaccine and it has finally come, so we thank God.
The Oxford AstraZeneca vaccines will be administered in 4 phases, each of the phases representing different categories of people across the country to ensure equity. Now, it is hoped that with more of millions of vaccines coming in from global partners, Nigeria would have vaccinated 70% of its population by 2022. From the National Hospital, Gloria Obaseki, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, state governments are also gearing up for the inoculation of the vaccines. In the southwest, Governor Dakwa Abiodun of Ogun State says the state is ready to begin the vaccination process. He made the comments in Abeokuta, the state capital, where he further disclosed that his administration has received guidelines from the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency on those to be prioritized while ensuring that all of its refrigerators are in good condition to store the vaccines.
We are fully prepared to receive the vaccines and actually commence vaccination. I don't know how much of that you know. The entire cold chain that is required to keep the vaccinations have been identified. In each of your wards, we have a refrigerator that is in good working condition to receive the vaccines in every ward in the state. We actually have more refrigerators than the number of wards that we have. So we have those that are there right now, and we have the backups as well. So we are fully prepared. Pastor are going through a training program right now. There's the trainers program that's ongoing right now to ensure that everybody knows what to do. Very soon, the Ministry of Health will give you all the other details as to how this is going to roll out.
Well, for the Edo State Governor, Mr. Godwin Obaseki, disregard for preventive protocols should be discouraged at this level, as he cautions that vaccination alone will not make the coronavirus go away immediately. Mr. Obaseki also assures residents that he will take his own COVID-19 vaccination first, noting that this will clear doubts from those who are concerned over the safety of the vaccines. He was speaking to journalists after inspecting storage facilities inside the state's medical stores in Benin City, the Edo State capital.
This virus is going to be with us for quite some time. The vaccine is just one of the first hurdles to reduce the spread of COVID-19. And the fact that you have taken your vaccine does not mean you should be careless, you should not wear your masks, you should not protect yourselves, because many more people may not have received their own vaccinations. So we will still continue to insist, advocate that people still conduct themselves and behave to prevent COVID from spreading, and also to just protect themselves from contracting the virus. I will take mine, and if I take mine and I'm okay, that should give confidence to Edo people to take.
Moving up north in Yobe State, where healthcare officials are being trained on the vaccination process in collaboration between the government and the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the Executive Secretary of the Primary Health Development Agency in the state says though Yobe is yet to receive the vaccines, it is taking steps to educate healthcare workers on basic facts, storage system, risk communication, demand generation and acceptance. Let's get more perspectives on the vaccine inoculation in Nigeria. Earlier, I spoke with the World Health Organization's country representative in Nigeria, Mr. Walter Malombo Kasadi. I started by asking him about the next steps in the process to achieve the goal of COVAX.
From here, we can say that the campaign is started, and we are in the process of achieving what COVAX facility was created for. That is to ensure equitable access to vaccine to everyone that needs it. So going forward, I know that in the state, training has already started to administer the vaccine, and the doses of vaccine are being shipped out to the state for them to also kick off starting next week. So it's showing some good prospects, and we have no reason to worry about the next stage of the campaign. We hope that it will go well, first with the healthcare workers, but also to be followed by other risk group and the rest of the population. I can see that all the states are actively preparing to receive the vaccine. Of course, it's an evolving situation, and that's why we also have our teams on the ground to help the teams out there to fix any remaining issues. So we are confident that the vaccine will be rolled out as planned. And of course, there may be some hiccup, but that's what we are here for, to support the government to make sure that everybody gets this vaccine.
In terms of the support, about 3.92 million doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, grossly inadequate for Nigeria's population. But what further steps should be taken to fast-track further supplies of vaccines? And this is taking into consideration how the AstraZeneca vaccine should be administered, the 2 doses, and then the 4 to 12 weeks.
Well, as you would understood, this first batch of 3.9 million doses was just the initial allocation, representing the number of doses targeting specifically frontline health workers. It will be followed by other doses. As you know, AstraZeneca vaccine, which is the vaccine that has been approved for Nigeria, it's under the emergency use list that WHO approved. It will be sent in batches. So the interval between the first and the second dose can go from 4 weeks up to 12 weeks. So we anticipate that before we get to the 4th weeks, we should be seeing additional doses of vaccine coming into the country.
What about the part where it says the vaccine efficacy could not be reliably determined in older adults 65? We know that France took that position earlier on and then did a U-turn just a couple of days ago.
We know that even as the vaccine has been used, been authorized for emergency use under compassionate protocol, evaluation is still going on, and we are still getting more and more data. So for now, there is no evidence that there is a reduction in efficacy over 65 years of age. So if such evidence will come up, WHO will certainly recommend the readjustment. But for now, the AstraZeneca vaccine is recommended for all age groups from 18 years and above.
We'd like to thank you, Dr. Walter Kasadi, World Health Organization Country Director Representative. Thank you for joining us on the News at 10.
You're welcome, Lisa.
In part 2, after the break, President Buhari directs new service chiefs to secure Nigeria before the rainy season sets in as he decorates them with new ranks. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. 4 health workers become first to get COVID-19 shots in Nigeria as the nation begins rollout of the vaccines, 3rd country to do so in Africa. Governors gear up for vaccine rollout in states, say everything in place for inoculation, but warn against complacency by residents. You have weeks to secure Nigeria. President Buhari challenges new service chiefs as he decorates them with new ranks. And Pope Francis calls for an end to violence and extremism as he pays historic visits to Iraq. The newly appointed service chiefs now have a huge task ahead of them, and that is to secure the country within the next few weeks. President Muhammadu Buhari gave this directive today during a promotion ceremony where he decorated the service chiefs with new ranks. The Chief of Defence Staff, Major General Loki Rabo, is now a full general. Chief of Army Staff, Major General Ibrahim Atahiru, moves up in rank to Lieutenant General. The Chief of Naval Staff, Rear Admiral Awal Gambo, is now a Vice Admiral, while the Chief of Air Staff, Air Vice Marshal Oladayo Amao, was today decorated as an Air Marshal. He told them that their mandate is to get the job done before the start of the rainy season to the level that farmers who had fled their farms in different parts of Nigeria would have developed enough confidence to return. Today's promotion in rank follows their confirmation by the Senate as new service chiefs.
During our 4-hour security meeting, I have taken the responsibility as Commander-in-Chief for you to go out into the field and secure the country. I have accepted responsibility for your actions in the field. It's up to you to identify your competent officers, irrespective of seniority and paper qualification, and deploy them to make sure that we secure this country. We have got a few weeks to do that because by the rainy season, we expect people to develop confidence and go back to the land so that we don't get in trouble by being away from the field and therefore unable to produce enough food for the nation. We all look forward to you to perform, and I, as a CNC, I'm backing you 100%, and I expect you to effectively deploy your officers and men to secure the country.
Speaking to correspondents after the ceremony, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, told State House correspondents that Nigerians cannot continue to live in fear, and the era of living in fear will now be a thing of the past.
Nigerians are expecting us to bring about peace and security in concert with other security agencies. That we will do. We can't live in fear, and we ensure that Nigerians, whatever bring fear to them before now, will be a thing of the past. What we will not do is to give instructions to our subordinates and not do the same. So by extension, we will command the troops based on the expectations that we have of them, and we will do according to the expectations that we have of them too. No doubt, next 100 days is not as important as today. I believe that as members of the armed forces, working in concert with the rest of the security agencies, we will bring Mr. President's expectation to bear in terms of our attacks. But let me also let you know that the inevitable is that Nigerians will indeed experience peace and security across the land.
And we have more stories from our Abuja studios. Linda, take it away.
Hello, Millicent. We begin with security. Former President Goodluck Jonathan is optimistic that with collective efforts from the nation's leaders and security agencies, Nigeria has what it takes to tackle the security challenges currently ravaging the country. President Jonathan was speaking to newsmen after paying a condolence visit to the Delta State Governor Ifeanyi over the death of his father. According to him, the trend of kidnapping school children is not new, but what matters most is the commitment on the part of every stakeholder to put a stop to it.
I believe that the government will continue to do the best. That's one of the things I was praising the governor, all his efforts working with the police to ensure security. Society is like a human being. You pass through different phases of life. It's quite an unfortunate phase that we are facing as a nation. But I believe with the commitment of the governors and the federal government, we'll be able to address the issues. It's quite regrettable, like you asked about school children. You know, when I was in office too, Chibok girls were kidnapped. So it is not only now that kidnapping has taken place. And if you are not wearing the shoes, you will not know how it pains But I believe that the president himself is not sleeping. The governors are not sleeping. And as long as the governors, the president, and all the security agencies will work together, Nigeria will be able to cross over this very ugly phase of societal evolution.
At least 13 people are said to have been reported killed in an attack by bandits in Tara, Sabon local government area of Sokoto State. The village head of Tara community, May Nasara Mohammed, who confirmed the incident, says the bandits invaded the community at midnight, rustled many livestock and burnt their food silos. He explains that the bandits sprang a surprise on the community's vigilantes by avoiding all the major roads to the village. Meanwhile, Governor AMINU Tambuwal has been speaking on the security situation in the state after he had a conversation with the Vice President today in the nation's capital, Abuja. The governor confirmed the attack and said efforts are on to end the security crisis rocking the state and the country at large.
I'm here to actually brief him on how prepared we are to receive him on that day. But of course, we also have had reason to talk about issues of security, because even this morning, from 1 a.m. last night through this morning, there was an attack in Sokoto State, in Sabon local government area, in Tara village, where so far we've lost about 15 people as a result of that attack. So security must always be at the front banner whenever leaders, more so the Vice President, meet with people who are on the saddle in our respective states.
From Sokoto to Zamfara State, where a soldier has been arrested alongside his girlfriend for allegedly supplying ammunition and military uniforms and other items to bandits in Zamfara State. This is according to the Zamfara State government, which has expressed worry that some security operatives deployed to protect lives and property are now aiding banditry. Also reacting to reports about the abduction of 60 people in the state on Wednesday, the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Governor, Bashir Maru, explains that the gunmen attacked the village and kidnapped some locals, but could not state the number of people abducted. Staying with security stories, a former governor of Niger State, Babangida Aliyu, is throwing his weight behind the establishment of state police in the country as a major step to tackle the security challenges. The former governor explains that state police will be better positioned to complement the efforts of the federal government in tackling criminality in communities instead of the present centralized policing system that seems to be overstretched.
When I was chairman of Northern Governors Forum, the Northern Governors were concerned at that time with what the politician could do with the state police. Knowing that, if you notice, all local government elections in every state are always won by the government of the day. So our fear then, but with what is happening now, we need a state police by whatever name they will be called. So that people, we had local government police, if you remember. And if the rules and regulations will be put properly, I don't think the fears that we had will be there. All the fears will be allayed. So the rules and regulations for the state police, if you go to other countries, even institutions have their police. Universities or schools, they have police established by either the state government or by the institutions. But the laws that will make sure that such establishment, and they are not used by other people or other institutions, you know. So that is, I think, where we'll go to.
Away from security matters, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is exploring new ways of reducing corruption in Nigeria to the barest minimum. And that's according to the chairman of the commission, Mr. ABDURASHEED BAWA, as he officially resumes office today in the nation's capital, Abuja. Mr. BAWA, who met with the management team of the commission, says he's aware of the task ahead of him and that the task is attainable if the commission explores new strategies.
The commission have identified that there is difference between fighting corruption and fighting corrupt people. And that going forward, we are going to be proactive in our approach in the fight against Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And by being proactive is by way of, having what we all know to be intelligence-led investigation. We are going to digitalize our processes, and we are going to create a new full-fledged Directorate of Intelligence to enable us to gather intelligence so that we will be proactive in our fight against Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And by so doing, we will also, provide government with necessary, policy advice that will lead to good governance in this, our dear country, Nigeria. Staff welfare is going to be our priority. We are going to work on that. We are going to ask the government for assistance in that regard. We know the problems, and God willing, we will offer solutions to solve these problems. I want to state here to us, management, and indeed Nigerians, that God willing, we are not going to fail, and God willing, the labor of our heroes past shall never be in vain.
When the news at 10 returns, we have more on the judiciary. Plus, African Development Bank approves $400,000 grant for the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission to support capital markets development. That's some business news. Join us again.
And to legal matters, the trial of the chairman of the defunct Pension Reform Task Team continued today in Abuja with a witness, Mr. Ngozika Uhoma, insisting that the Pension Task Team under Mr. ABDURASHEED made huge recoveries amounting to 1.63 trillion naira in assets. Mr. Uhoma, a management consultant who took part in the biometric capture for pensioners in 2010, said that Mr. Maina, as chairman, the team also recovered 282 billion naira from suspected pension thieves within the first 18 months. While being cross-examined by the prosecution counsel, Mohammed Abubakar, the witness stood by his earlier testimonies, including that relating to the monies warehoused at the Central Bank of Nigeria, but did not tender documents to back his claims. During further cross-examination by the prosecutor, the witness also admitted that he had not tendered documents to prove that 74 billion naira of the recovered funds was used for the 2012 national budget. Justice Okona Bank had ruled against the admissibility of a document which the defendant's counsel, Abiola Olawole, sought to tender. The said document shows allowances of members of staff of the task team as well as those of National Assembly members on oversight. The prosecutor said the document, though a public one, was not a certified true copy, making it inadmissible in evidence, thus prompting the ruling by the judge. The case has been adjourned till March 9th, 10th and 11th, 2021 for continuation of the cross-examination of Mr. Maina's witness. Meanwhile, the senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, has denied buying any property from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, following a testimony by the witness, Mr. Ngozika Uhoma, who told the Federal High Court, Abuja, yesterday that a property allegedly recovered by the Pension Reform Task Force, valued at 6 billion naira, was sold to Mr. Falana for 1 billion naira sometime in 2015. In a statement today, Mr. Falana said the property in question was never recovered by the Presidential Pension Task Force and that it is on record that the property was used as collateral by the owner, A Group Properties Limited, as loan from Bank PHB in 2008. When the owner of the property defaulted in the payment of the loan, it was taken over by the Asset Management of Nigeria, AMCON, via an order of interim forfeiture. He explains that in an attempt to liquidate the loan, the owner of the property wanted to sell it, and his law firm agreed to buy the property for 250 million naira, but they withdrew from the transaction due to the delay in resolving the case. Mr. Falana adds that up till now, the case is still pending at the Federal High Court. He is, however, challenging the federal government to proceed to forfeit the alleged 1 billion naira property purportedly paid by him, and recover the property if it is established that it was recovered by the Pension Task Force. Staying with legal matters, the Supreme Court has dismissed the appeals filed by a former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Adams Oshiomhole, and the ex-caretaker committee chairman of the party in Rivers State, Mr. Igwe Aguma, over Mr. Aguma's sack. In a unanimous judgment, a five-man panel of the Apex Court upheld the 29th December 2020 judgment of the Court of Appeal, Abuja, which set aside an earlier judgment of the High Court of Rivers State. In the lead judgment, the court held that the appeal was without merit because it was plagued with a litany of jurisdictional issues. The Supreme Court said the judgment in the appeal by Mr. Aguma should be applied to the one filed by Mr. Oshiomhole, in which the former APC national chairman, among others, queried the jurisdiction of the appeal court in Abuja to have heard the case. The Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja in its December 29, 2020 judgment had set aside the June 2020 judgment of Justice George Omereji of the High Court of Rivers State in Port Harcourt and sacked Mr. Aguma as acting caretaker committee chairman of APC in Rivers State. To other stories, the Lagos State Judicial Panel on Restitution for Victims of SARS and other related matters continued its sitting today with 10 petitions listed for hearing. A petitioner, Ijeoma Chukwu, told the panel how her 16-year-old son was killed, while Evelyn Nwankwo narrated how her elder brother was killed in 1979.
Petitioners who have experienced police brutality and other related abuses are here again at the Lagos Court of Arbitration for hearing of their cases. Friday's proceedings witnessed the testimony of Mrs. Ijeoma Chukwu at the further hearing of the case between Uzo Chukwu and the Nigerian police force. The witness narrates how on March 11, 2018, her 16-year-old son, Emmanuel Chukwu, was hit by a police stray bullet while the officers tried to stop a crowd from beating a woman suspected to be a kidnapper. The child was taken to the morgue by the police, but due to the parents' lack of funds to bury him immediately, the police buried the child in a mass grave without their knowledge.
I was a small boy from back here, they don't follow them where come. Mommy, man, where they stand, they look. Police shoot Emmanuel, he died. And they try to carry Emmanuel. Come to my house. Stop there. Emmanuel. Now tell us, say we are police, carry him, they say police. Carry my son to station.
The panel also continued the hearing of the case between the family of late Ikwechi Onwubofo and the Nigerian police force. The witness, Evelyn Nwankwo, narrates how her brother was shot in Lagos on April 9, 1979. She said she was around 15 years old at the time and the death had had an adverse effect on her mother's health.
So you said your mother had issues which led to her death when she heard the news of the demise of your elder brother.
Yes, because that my brother was the pillar of the house that time. He was the one helping us. He was the one training us. So when my mother heard of it, my mother, in short, he ran mad. And I don't want to remember those things that happened that time because my mother ran mad that time. And she was chained that period.
The panel also heard the petition between Iriyemi Oyetomi and the Nigerian police force. The witness, Damilola Bamiro Iriyemi, who spoke in Yoruba language, narrates how his younger brothers were arrested by SARS officers on January 15, 2017. 10 cases were scheduled for hearing. 4 were taken. The chairman recused herself in 1, while the rest were adjourned to later days.
Over in River State, the government has flagged off the construction of a 7th flyover project in the state. The state government had on Tuesday signed an agreement with Julius Berger Nigeria plc to construct 2 new flyovers at a combined cost of 12.4 billion naira, one of which was flagged off today, while the other will be flagged off tomorrow. The flag-off exercise was performed by the South-South Vice Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Dan Obi.
His Royal Highness Eze Christopher I DJP.
It's an industrial area, and it also serves as the biggest automobile spare parts market in River State. Located near the popular Mile 3 market in Port Harcourt, the Ukoko area along the Olu-Obasanjo Road is strategic to the flow of traffic between Aba and Ikwere roads, which are all very important roads in the Garden City. Not pleased with the way artisans at the market have been using the road, the government moves to construct this flyover.
We have been having urban renewals to bring back Port Harcourt to what it used to be. I'm sure that this 7th flyover will improve the beauty of this place. The properties here will go up and businesses will thrive. I know most of you who are here, you are not happy. Most of you are at the back here. I know you are not happy, so don't pretend. I know. Because you have turned here to something else. I think all those things have to stop now. Port Harcourt is a clean place, and so we must maintain that. But it's going to create employment for our people. Our children will be engaged here to work.
Before flagging off the project, the South-South Vice Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Mr. Dan Obi, says Governor NYESOM WIKE is demonstrating what his party can do if given a chance to govern the country again.
Your tenure has opened a new floodgate of development in the history of this state. I have no doubt in my mind that time and prosperity will vindicate you. You have shown courage. You have shown commitment. I have seen that in River State, with what you have done, having the right leadership, everything is possible. You have shown that government can work. You have shown that having the right leadership, that Nigeria can work again.
Measured at over 900 meters, the Nkpolo Oroworukwa flyover will no doubt solve the traffic challenge along the Olu-Obasanjo Road. But thousands of traders as well as artisans who could be displaced at the biggest automobile spare parts market in River State want the state government to create an avenue for them to continue doing business in the area.
Now to some business stories. Here's ANNENWAGHODO.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Hello and welcome to Business News. The African Development Bank Group has signed a $400,000 grant agreement with the Nigeria Securities and Exchange Commission to help strengthen the country's capital market. In a statement released today, the multilateral finance institution says the funds will go towards strengthening risk-based supervision framework, regulation of derivatives and green bonds, and build capacity for green finance. The project is also expected to reinforce the implementation of the Commission's Capital Market Master Plan for the year 2015 to 2025 and its vision to position the Nigerian capital market as a competitive and attractive destination for portfolio investment. Meanwhile, the AFDB says the grant will be sourced from the Capital Markets Development Trust Fund, which is a multi-donor fund administered by the bank. The central bank says it will continue to support multilateral firms willing to invest in local manufacturing of items that can be made in Nigeria. In a statement released today, the governor of the CBN, Godwin Emefiele, explains that Nigeria offers significant advantages for multinational manufacturing firms that choose to invest in domesticating their production lines, given the market size and the country's population. He also adds that the CBN has disbursed close to 300 billion naira to 76 manufacturing firms, which will boost local manufacturing across critical sectors over the next few years, while current efforts have aided the recovery of the manufacturing sector, as reflected in the February Purchasing Managers Index report. Let's head to the local bourse, where improving yields at the fixed income market is still pulling investors away from the equities market as it closes today's trading session with a moderate loss. Let's hear the details from NGONG.
It's been 4 negative trading sessions this week, despite the release of more earnings results. About 200 billion naira has so far been lost to sell pressure at the equities market. The bear is having a field day. Now, the major factor is that investors believe the future of fixed income market is still bright, since there's the anticipation that the federal government will turn there to service this year's budget. Lafarge pulled the industrial goods sector out of the red zone after trading over 1.65 million units. At the same time, the oil and gas sector went down by 5.31%, following a 43 naira 10 kobo loss by Seplat, even though it accounted for over 10 billion naira in value of transactions. Now, going to the activity chart, the overall value of today's transaction was higher at over 13.6 billion naira, in contrast to 4.72 billion naira that was recorded on Thursday. Zenith Bank drove this, while AXA Mansard led in volume at 282.3 million units. Now, at the end of the day, the all-share index decreased by 0.8%, leaving the equities cap at 20.57 trillion naira, with 27 losers led by Trans-Nationwide Express and 20 gainers led by Morrison. That's the stock market report. I'm Imi John Mekwa.
And that's Business News Tonight. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm NYESOM. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Anne. Pope Francis has called for an end to violence and extremism in his opening address on the first ever papal visit to Iraq. The 84-year-old defied a second wave of the pandemic and renewed security fears to make the trip to comfort one of the world's oldest Christian communities, while also deepening his dialogue with Muslims. Let's head over to our London studios now, where Simon Pusey has more on this and other international news and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Pope Francis has arrived in Iraq for the country's first ever papal visit and his first international trip since the start of the coronavirus. COVID and security fears have made this his riskiest visit yet, but the 84-year-old insisted he was duty-bound. He will try to reassure the dwindling Christian community and foster interreligious dialogue, meeting Iraq's most revered Shia Muslim cleric. The Pope will also celebrate Mass at a stadium in Erbil in the north. About 10,000 Iraqi security forces personnel are being deployed to protect the Pope, while round-the-clock curfews are also being imposed to limit the spread of COVID-19. China's top lawmaking body has unveiled plans to ensure only patriots can govern Hong Kong as Beijing tightens its grip on the city with changes to the electoral system. Premier Li Keqiang, addressing the National People's Congress, warned the world not to interfere. The move follows the imposition of a tough new security law last year. Critics say Beijing is crushing dissent and removing the one country, two system agreement it made with the UK about Hong Kong. Under the agreement, the former British colony was allowed to continue with its own legal system and have rights including free speech. Australia has asked the European Commission to review a decision by Italy to block a shipment of AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine.
In Italy, people are dying at the rate of 300 a day.
The Italian government's decision to block an export of the vaccine affects 250,000 doses produced at a facility in Italy. The European Union allows its members to block exports if the company providing the vaccines has failed to meet its obligations. AstraZeneca is on track to provide only 40% of the agreed supply to member states in the first 3 months of the year, citing production problems for the shortfall. Hundreds of mourners in Myanmar have attended a funeral for a 25-year-old protester killed on Wednesday, the bloodiest day of anti-coup protests so far. His funeral came as activists held more demonstrations in several towns and cities. On Thursday and Friday, police broke up rallies with tear gas and gunfire in several cities, but their crackdown was more restrained than on Wednesday, when the United Nations said 38 people were killed. President Jair Bolsonaro has told Brazilians to stop whining about COVID-19 as he criticised measures to curb the virus despite a surge in cases and deaths.
20 milhões de doses disponíveis.
His comments came a day after Brazil saw a record rise in deaths over a 24-hour period. Brazil is facing its worst phase of the pandemic yet, leaving its health system in crisis. Brazil's health ministry says more than 260,000 people have died with COVID-19, the second highest pandemic death toll in the world after the US. The explosion of cases has been attributed to the spread of a highly contagious variant of the virus, thought to have originated in the Amazon city of Manaus. Cuba has begun late-stage trials of its most advanced experimental COVID-19 vaccine, edging closer to a potential homegrown inoculation that could help the country recover from the virus. The country has started recruiting around 44,000 volunteers in the capital, Havana, between the ages of 19 and 80 for its randomized placebo-controlled trial of the two-shot vaccine. If it proves successful, Cuba has said it will inoculate its entire population of 11 million with what would be the first COVID-19 vaccine developed and produced in Latin America. Access to Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp and Telegram has been restored in Senegal following several hours of partial restrictions on Friday morning. It comes as protests against the arrest of a popular opposition figure, Ousmane Sonko, entered their third day in the capital Dakar. Police opposed protesters in the University of Dakar, where clashes lasted for hours. Some amazing footage now of a freight train which derailed spectacularly in Southern California, causing its carriages to pile up on top of each other. Drone footage shows the wagons piled up across the tracks. An estimated 25 to 35 carriages derailed, some carrying hazardous materials that were later mitigated. There were no injuries. The cause of the crash is under investigation. And finally, to an exhibition with a difference. Photographer Viktor Lyagushkin and artist Denis Lotarev have brought their paintings, pictures and sculptures under the frozen waters of the White Sea. It means to see it, visitors have to don a diving suit and breathing apparatus as well as braving freezing temperatures. Mr. Lyagushkin says the creatures and plants he captures may become extinct in the near future due to climate change, and those photos could be the last images of them. The art will stay on display until mid-April, when the ice then starts to melt. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Niger's Aruna Quadri has crashed out of the World Table Tennis Doha event at the hands of Chinese Taipei's Yu Julin in the quarter-final stage. Despite producing a valiant effort in the keenly contested encounter, Quadri lost 3-1. The African #1 tried to stage a comeback towards the end of the game, but that did not affect the scoreline as he eventually lost 8-11, 9-11, 17-15, 9-11. Qatar has reiterated its total commitment to hosting the 2032 Olympics despite the International Olympic Committee's preferring another candidate. In addition to Qatar, which last year indicated its desire to host, interest from India and Chinese city Shanghai has also been reported. All those hopefuls were dealt a blow by last month's news that Brisbane was the preferred candidate. Liverpool FC manager Jurgen Klopp expects a difficult game against relegation-threatened Fulham in the English Premier League on Sunday. Klopp insists it will be a mistake to judge Fulham based on their position on the league table. The Reds will face Fulham on Sunday, hoping to end their losing streak at Anfield. Barcelona coach Ronald Koeman concedes that his future is out of his hands ahead of the club's looming presidential election. Now, Koeman, who has led his side to second in the La Liga table and the final of the Copa del Rey, admits that whoever wins the election holds the key to his future. One of the three candidates, Victor Font, has campaigned on the basis that he will bring former midfielder and current Al Sadd coach Xavi Hernandez in as a new head coach. And that's sports news. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Back to you.
Thank you, Ayotunde. And the main news again. 4 health workers today became the first to get COVID-19 shots in Nigeria as the nation began rollout of the vaccines. The federal government has also promised to ensure that everyone gets vaccinated. Also today, President Buhari challenged the new service chiefs, telling them that they only have a few weeks to secure Nigeria. He gave the directive as he decorated them with new ranks. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Enjoy your weekend and stay safe.